Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. My name is Meg Lau, the Sustainability Coordinator here at Syracuse University. It is with great honor that I welcome you all here today to Ethan Tayo's graduate practicum and the Seed Sovereignty Garden dedication in Pete's Giving Garden. I acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the Indigenous people on whose ancestral lands Syracuse University now stands. I'd like to now introduce Spencer Lyons, Chief of the Onondaga Hawk Clan, for the Thanksgiving address. Thank you.
Nyoha skano sogwegi. Onondaga wa gu enjoda ganakta gwanio gini dwageno. Di swag guy on what wage say it waskunda on gyasta. Ai gwa to hoyane ka gasana fasna gahawi sik na yene hoyoniani. My name is Chief Spencer Lyons from the Onondaga Nation. I come from Ganakta-Gwanioge, the main village here south of Syracuse. I represent the Hawk Clan, and they've asked me to do the Thanksgiving address to start the event. Oh ne, na ye ne enkasawa, da ne, na ye ne sungway and twasi, ne tat ni ungway ho da, and da na ye di with the enu unya, skada handway ne ungwa nigo ha, eating gadia ta den what that no ha, da ne to di na thick ne ungwa nigo ha. Da ne to ho wanja da di na ye ne tino ha di tino henkwa. Na ye ne kwas ona ne da yo ta ni yo ta akino henkwa. Na ye ne kwas o wi hawana ta wada sagawi hunda. Na ye ne Hawaii e at the guanillo. To no da weta kwa ngwa ni go hiosta kwi skano I don't know to ni hek. And da na ye di ne o ne nge ni dokta di skano I dwe hek di nge aso. Di wat ne di ti ha di ta wada sagawi hunda. Ni to di hagwa di wa hawita with wade anu nya skada handwa ne ngwa ni go ha. What the tino hene tino hats out when jade dane to the nayotic the ongwani go have. And ona na ye ne to hagwan and what when a ya that ne no hand you thought with that hoyan twasine over no cat so would you go chat so and I got to yan quat so na got to kahuntu you ne what you know quat tag na ye di ne ona and guy quat no and guy what the end that to know and you the end that scanner again na ye ne scanner and no don't you. And na di ne o ne o di ne kuwa ne ne o kwenta ni hodo da ne ka hentenka. And na di do do asonyuk asunset what got what scandal saguntin na o ga hadekwa ni to di hagwa di wa hawita with de anu nyats ka da hendwa ne ngwa ni go ha with di tino ha na ne what no kwat tag da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha. And na di ne o ke hoyent fasi na ne what yo hundake na ne o na to no Hawaii na nge na ye ne kwaso na ne danyo ta ni o ta na ye ne ge skeno I don't know to ni hik na ye ne to no he ye enda gwa ta budan ye go ya da dai ha da and na ye di na gwa to hit ke ho ha ne on gwa ta ni gwa dons and na ye di ne o di ne gwa gwa ne na ye ne ge ne o hwa ta ganyo das ka de ni ta de wa ye on the dwa dai ha da to no na ye ne en ka ni ka hin ha ne o wa ta he ye ni go na ta ne ono gwa ta skano I don't know do ni hik and na ye di do ason yuk ason sa wat gat wa junta ka ni ka hin ha ne o wa ta da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha and na ye di ne o ne wai hoyen twasi went to get ya da ne sa wa ye ni yu ne o de ka na ye ne o ya and na ye di with de no nya do ason yuk na ye ne ke chik wa to and set wat gat wa na ye ne ge sa wa ye ni yu ne o hande de kakwi to ge sia na ge he ye ni gunya he ye ni guneta no gwa tsa ni gwa dons and na di with de enu nya skada handwa ne ngwa ni go ha what di tino hane what yo hyage da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha and na di ne o ne hot kai na ye ne ge what kundi yo de ge di to hagwan and what when ye da o ne gaguwa ko ni de ne what kuni chunt de ge de would just in and get no the with that but jungo the not saying down hat scano I don't know do new hick go ya to get stuck we hard ye scano the young with the way yet to know when jog and na di ne onke to hagwa ne ngen and what when ye that what kundi yo de ge kundi the kinu di sick ne what kun ta ga hundu and na di o ne ho di ne go go on ne scano do na di na kwa to sa de yo de wat sinin ga yo de ge nun da westa kwa jung kwa na sa yan dan ha handa na di ne o na to kwa nan wat wan ya da ngwa nu ke ya da wat kun di yo de ge de kun di ya du da na do ge sha na ge ko di wanios na ne wat kun di wana ke skano ai dwe hek di na ge wan do ngwa he ye ti wana henga handa na di o na o di ne kwa go wana na ge ne skaji e na handa na di wat de anu nya skada handwa ne ngwa ni go ha wadi tino ha ne ka yo so a hot ka I to na wan cha ge da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha handa na di ne o na hot ka I ne o ka ne ga nyo to no na ne skano nun da weta kwa na ne to do asun yu asun go ya to do gasta kui ha di skano ai do no to ni o hek ne to di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta wat de anu nya skada handwa ne ngwa ni go ha wat di tino wat wano ha na ge ne ka ne ga nyo asun ko di ni ka te jo kui ha di da ne to di na tik ne ngwa ni go ha handa na di ne o na sun go da na sa ya ni ne jon he kui na kan ya ha ngwa ya da ye to na ngwa ya da is ta na ge wada de handa na di to do asun yu asun ai to he di na ga asun gwa ya ne on die quite ga go nya scanner wa dun ha te dia ta wa da sun go en to si ne jon he kui handa na di would they no nya to do asun na ge asan ni good that no dia on ha na go to on you sa o na ne o sa hita to do asun said what got we hard ye no go dun ha te di hard ye na ge ne jon he kui ne te di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta would they no nya skada handwa ye ne on gwa ni go ha wa di tino ha ne jon he kui da ne to di na tik ne on gwa ni go ha handa ona ho we ka shon gwa sa go we hun da sa go we ga east nik to no na ne on kana wat wan ya da ha de wat twa sa gwa ni tane da kwa eti so da ha di wa no do ndi kwa so na ne da yo cha ni yo cha wa sa go we hun da na di nga gwe nya to ge sia na ge sa no hai ha cha wan ja de na ha we sta de osta na kwa to na ne scanner and what doing ha de di na a gwegi na ge cha wa da so ho yen twa si to na wan ja ge handa na di do asun yu asun na di wat de di ha di cha wa da sa go we hun da ni te di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta wa de no nya skada handwa ya ne on gwa ni go ha wa di tino ha ti so da ha di wa na do di sta ne to di na tik ne on gwa ni go ha handa ona ne on ka to ha gwa na wa ne ya da tik ni ga ko ge ti on ki ha te da kui na ne jo de ti set wa ji an de ka ga kwa o ska ge ta go na to ge sia na ge ni yo ha ti si yo na ge wa da de handa na di ha we kwa so na ne da ni yo ga sa ni yo sa huai hun da na ga gwe nya de ho ha te dik na kwa to da ho dai ha dik skada ne ha na wa ku di six scanner wa don ha te di ha di sa wa da so go en to si to na wan ja ge na di do asun yu asun ho di wa te di ha di sa wa da huai hun da ni te di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta wa de no nya wa said wa no ha said ba chi an da ka ga kwa da ne to di na yo tik ne on gwa ni go ha handa ona to ha gwa nan wat wan ya da eti so da so he ka gwa ga kwa sa de yo kwa so na ne da yo cha ni yo cha wa sa go bi hun da to ge sia na ge na ye ne ska da ne go di na wa ya kun je signal on to we sa o ke isti ha ye scan de ho di da I ha ye ne gwa sa da to na wan ja ge handa na di na gwa to o ne ti ya da ne o just no go ni sa de yo kai wa yan da kui and you said then ha ne o wi fo gwe gi ho yan to si to na wan ja ge ne te di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta wa de no nya ska da handwa ne on gwa ni go ha wa di ti no ha ne asu he ka ga kwa da ne te di ne asu he ka ga kwa wa ni da de da ne te di ne tik ne on gwa ni go ha handa ona na ne sa go da ni da ga ni on gwe de ge di on kian ya do to na wan ja ge na ne an ga gwe ne kwa so wi ha wa na cha wa da sa go wi hun da and to the stand ye six scanner again na ne o wi fo gwe gi hot ka I to na wan ja ge handa na di na gwa to scanner I do no to ni hek nga gwe nya ho di de gwa shu na ne ga ni go ha geso na gwa to na ne akui aga se wan ha ne ya go di ye ya handa na di na ge di doctor di scanner I do hek di na ga to ge sia na ge asu ho di wa isti ha di cha wa dan sa go wi hun da ni te di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta wa de no nya skada handwa ne ngwa ni go ha wa di tino ha ga ni ngwe de ge di on kian ya do da ne to di na yo tik ne ngwa ni go ha handa ona na ye to gwanan but when ye da sa with that hu sa wana ta na ye nenge kai hono da sa ne kai hui to ge sia nenge na ye ne huai hu da na ye nenge sa ya da na ha we sick ha we na ga nyo with the way ye to na wan ja ge and to no da with da kwa nga gwe nya o we forget so nga gwe nya na ye ne ngwa ni go ha get kwa hard ye scan I do no to new hick scan the young with the way ye to na wan ja ge and da na di with de no nya what said when no han said wa go wana scan ya dayo da na to di na tik na ngwa ni go ha and ona they ne tani ho ya si ga nya ge hana ge ne sungwa ya di sai Hawaii when do no na ye ne wan ja ge jo sa ha ga nyo he so no ha he na gwa to he jo ta gwa ta no ta wan ja de and na ye di ne o na ye ne ngwa dan sui o scano I do he di na ga he to doctor ne ho ni go hes when the de new what sun the de new the ho santi ha ye ne ga no wan kwasa na gwa to o deni dance and na di do ge sia na get do asun sun go na wan kwak ni to di ha gwa di wa ha wi ta with de anu nya skada handwa ya ne ngwa ni go ha di what said when no ha ga nya ge na ge ne sun go ya di sai da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha and ona do ni go when ge ke I gai we and kwa na ye ne wu ge de anu nya ne ga no hen yung and na ye di ne o na scano aswan da han yo hik ta ne ge wak kwenya wa ga ya ga ta ne wa ma na ne ki sa agi once sa ni yo ta na ye na ge wa ga wa nit kan ha do ge sia na ge asu ga de sti ha di da ne to di ne tik ne ngwa ni go ha and na ye di ne o na ha de ga go nda and ga wa na de ni nga gwe ni aswan ni go ha ya da sa do ni ga wa na ge ke nga de no nya na ge wa da de na ye na ge ne o ha de ga wa de kwi nga gwe ni ska da ne ngwa ni go ha get swa and na ye di ngo o na nga sa wa da ne to. So I'm honored here, honored today to be here, part of this nice project and see all these beautiful people here with like-minded people. And we start every event that we gather with the Onondaga Wadikwi, the words before all else. And that's so we can ground ourselves and we can bring our minds together as one and we can give acknowledgement to everything that our Creator has brought here to this earth that we may peacefully go about here. So in that, I started with all the people, the Ungwisua, and that's where we start because we bring our minds together as one. That's Kadahne and Dwayan Ganigohio. That we can use that good mind and honor what the reason is that we're gathered. The next is we move to our Mother Earth because she is the main one where everything comes from. It's where our feet are planted and we go about her. So we acknowledge her as being one of the main ones where she holds everything that Creator has brought here for our peaceful and for our peaceful existence and our enjoyment. We move on and to all acknowledge all the natural world. And so we start with the grasses, all the tobaccos and all the different bushes and brushes that are here for us and it's medicine for us. And we acknowledge that and bring our minds together as one. Then we move on to the trees and the fruits and everything that the trees that we use, that we have many ways to connect with the forest and we have many usages for the forest. So we acknowledge that and they all have leaders. And the maple tree is we acknowledge as the leader of the forest and that we are grateful that we have the sap still ran this past spring and that we still have maple trees and we're still seeing everything peacefully grow. And let that be that way in our minds. The next is the berries that grow, and we put the berries after the trees because we say Swahiona is a big berry, which is an apple. So we acknowledge the fact that there are berries and fruits that grow high up in the trees, and that's also medicines that grow high up in the trees. So we acknowledge all the berries and all the different things that we make juices, and we consider that medicine so that we may be well here, and we may have that peaceful mind and go about here peacefully on earth. The next is we acknowledge all the living animals, starting with the fish. There's certain fish that we use, and it was a great part of our tradition and a big part of the staple of our diet as Indigenous peoples here on Turtle Island. So we acknowledge those fish, that they still exist there, that we're still able to have that our food still comes from that. And then we move to the forest, that all the four-legged animals running about, that our food also comes from them. And then again, that we hear the beautiful voices of all the birds that are above our heads that are flying about. So we acknowledge all those living things that they're still in existence, and let it be that way in our minds. Next, we move on to all the waters and everything that comes from that we need. It's essential to our being, and that we're still grateful that we have clean waters that we can use than we have to for our life sustenance. And after that, we move on to the reason that we're here, that I said today in my Thanksgiving, is to see these life-sustaining foods. And so we acknowledge all that these three sisters still exist, but there's also a lot of other foods that we also plant and use, and all these foods that we're very fortunate to still have, that we're still fortunate to have seeds. And so let it be that way in our minds, that we think that way, that it's very fortunate that this still exists for our peaceful existence here. Um, After that, we acknowledge that he had separated the beings here on earth. There's a barrier between the earth and the sky. And up in the sky, there are beings that have the responsibility to help the earth. And they're all connected to the earth. So with that, we direct our words towards the west, where the thunders come from, the thunder beings. And we give acknowledgement and thanks to them that they're still carrying on all their duties. They bring rain to these plants. They bring rain to us and the earth. And they're able to, what we say is, wash the earth, cleanse it in a way. And that we also acknowledge that they work as one with all the things that he planted, that everything needs that rain, and that they have great responsibility, and we acknowledge the fact that they're still carrying on that duty, so let it be that way in our minds. After we acknowledge the two orbs, the two suns, we in our language it's translated as two suns, the daytime sun and the nighttime sun. So we start with our elder brother, the sun. He's a great warrior and he's connected with the men, but he also has that responsibility to work with the plants and to oversee the earth, and his responsibilities are to bring brightness and light to the earth, that we can peacefully walk around, and also that he works with the plants and he gives them what they need so they can nourish, that he nourishes the plants just as much. And we acknowledge all that he does, and we continue to acknowledge that and thank him that he continues to do his duties, so let that be that way in our minds. Now we acknowledge the grandmother moon, and she works with the women. Also, she's the one that helps bring the children here, so we acknowledge all the different ways that she's connected to the earth. And with that, we include Haudenosaunee, the stars, because they have that same responsibility, that they also bring the dew and moisture in the nighttime, and they also sustain and work with the plants, and they're connected to that. So we acknowledge that her responsibility, and we acknowledge the fact that she's still doing that, so let it be that way in our minds. After we have four protectors, four directions, and four beings, that they are also in the sky world, and they have a great responsibility to work with the people, that we still think peacefully, and to help with that. And they also are connected with everything here on earth, that they make sure that everything the Creator has put here has a peaceful existence, whether it be plants, animals, and people, all together as one. So we acknowledge that they're still doing their duties, and we greet and thank them. So let it be that way in our minds. After we give thanks to our leader, who gave us a great message of Gaihuio, Handsome Lake, and we acknowledge all the things that he brought here, and all these things that connected us, reconnected our people, and give us a way to uplift our minds and have a peaceful existence into the future. And that we're fortunate that we still hear those words and that message, and we continue to think that way. So we acknowledge our leader, Handsome Lake. So let it be that way in our minds. And now lastly, we give thanks and acknowledgement to Creator, our higher power, that we start here on earth is what he deemed that we should start here on earth when we give thanks, and work our way through the natural world all the way into the sky, and he is the highest above there in the sky. So now we greet and thank him, and we're fortunate that day and night that he's still giving compassion here and still sending love here, and that he still loves us enough to continue this existence and everything we see here on earth. So we acknowledge the Creator for all that he's done. So let it be that way in our minds. So those are the words before all else, and that's meant to ground us and bring our minds together as one, and create and drop any barriers that we may have as people, and to remind ourselves that we're here for a common reason, whatever that reason is. And today we're fortunate enough to bring us such a beautiful event with this beautiful garden that I come and see up here, and these three sisters, and we're very fortunate for the continued acknowledgement that Syracuse University and the students here provide that space for that acknowledgement of the Haudenosaunee people, of the Onondaga people, that we may continue our ways of life here. So that's our words before all else. Done.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful day for such an amazing event. We thought it was going to rain. We've been watching all week, so we got a good day. My name is Saisha Bird. I am the director of the Office of Engagement Programs of Hendricks Chapel. Since 1930, Hendricks Chapel has sought to serve Syracuse University as a home for all faiths and a place for all people. After receiving an increase in requests from students for basic necessities, such as food and toiletries, in 2013, the chapel created a food pantry and developed a series of programs to provide long-term support and service to students, their health, and their well-being. In 2018, Hendricks Chapel collaborated with Sustainability Management to open a second food pantry in the Carriage House right down the road on Farm Acres Road on South Campus. In order to provide fresh produce to students seeking to utilize the food pantries, in 2019, work started on developing a campus garden. I led the effort along with Sustainability Management, the Dave B. Falk College of Sports and Human Dynamics, the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies, some of my folks standing right here, and Pete's Giving Garden, named after a very special person. A campus garden came to fruition. We were able to bring it to life. In response to growing awareness and support, the garden expanded in 2020 and now supplies over 450 pounds of produce to our students through the food pantries. In addition, the garden now includes compost bins, a pollinator garden that's going in around the perimeter of the whole garden, fruit trees. We have apple and pear trees, raspberries in the back along the fence, and accessible beds, which you see on the concrete pad, so that all students could be a part of this garden and learn how to grow food. We started with the mission of growing healthy food to feed our students. Over the last 3 years, it has expanded into a teaching garden for our whole community. The Three Sisters Garden will nourish and educate our students for many years to come. And I just want to thank you all for being, a part of this event to make sure that our students here on campus have what they need to succeed. I now welcome the person behind this whole idea of bringing the Three Sisters to the Pete's Giving Garden, Ethan Tayo.
Hello, welcome. This is definitely a much bigger event than I planned. But thank you everyone for coming. This was an idea that was really sparked in this garden 2 years ago in a way to find an opportunity to give back to the Native student program and the Indigenous students on this campus that have worked so hard to build resilience in our communities. And so what better way to do that than to bring our seeds back home? And so over the course of the past few months, I've been working with the Sustainability Department, Meg Lois, Aisha, who are my two wing people now, Regina, of course, and Food Studies Department that's given me support along the way. And it really was this idea of how can we create an impact in this community? How can we take such a simple thing as our seeds and build that resilience back for our Indigenous students? Give them an opportunity to involve themselves in these activities and kind of bring that back home and almost spark a new idea of what they can be done. This is a very personal thing to me. This was something that I've been working through the past 2 years myself, is really finding my way through my culture, finding a way to kind of figure out what can I contribute. And so here we go, we got this garden. And it wouldn't be possible without Angela. Angela was an amazing individual who I was able to bump into and who's really just the motivation and desire to make this a thing. And I couldn't have done it without you. You have words of wisdom and you have so many stories, and it's been such an honor to get to know you and to get to gather everyone around us. And to Regina, also, your support and your motivation has kept me going this entire time. I've been at this university for 7 years, and throughout the time I've seen it change. I've seen this garden change. I've seen our relationship with the university change. And over the past year, my mission was really to find a way that I can create impact. And through that, I was able to work with, we finally got a kitchen so we can make foods. And with this garden, it's another step to kind of create this cyclical cycle of getting students involved in food, in traditional foods, and those activities that they can take back home. And also give them a sense of community and belonging here. Because especially after the pandemic, it's been something that's been hard to deal with. It's separated us, it's isolated us, especially in an academic setting. A lot of students don't feel attached to their communities. And even myself, I felt dislocated. And so this is an opportunity to really bring students together in a socially distant location where they can meet, they can commingle, they can share stories, they can start this stuff. And I hope that this is something that does take off. I think this is an impact that will be generations down the line of SU Indigenous students and really create that sense that they feel at home here. So yeah, so that's about it. And I'd love to give the mic over to Angela and to just share your wisdom with us.
Thank you, everyone, for inviting us here, and more importantly, thank you for allowing our foods to return to their homeland. I appreciate that we are getting this support, and we'd like to just do a small demonstration for the virtual students who are live streaming this event that are quarantined in their rooms or perhaps studying or weren't able to actually attend in person due to guidelines. So what we're going to do is move forward after I talk about the three sisters, and we'll actually plant two of the sisters today. To me, they asked me to speak about three sisters, and what it means to me is that everyone here carries around the spirit of those three sisters. And for us, Indigenous people, it's something that at different periods in your lifetime, you'll actually experience the spirit of those plants. And so sometimes you may be standing tall and you're successful and you're feeling strong and good and you're standing up like the corn. Other times you may want to be learning, going through a learning process, and you travel like the squash. You move, you're going about to different places, but you're still grounded back from where you came from. And then other times you're like the beans. Other people need your support and you're meant to be giving towards them. So when I'm planting them, I think about that. I think about, what am I experiencing in my life? Where am I at? Am I corn? Am I beans right now? Am I squash? And then I look around to the people who are near me and I see, like, how can I reach out towards them, whatever stage I am in at. So somehow or another people will be brought into your lives where you'll recognize that you're one of those, you're in one of those stages. So today I'm so glad that the sun came out. This is really my passion. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Angela Ferguson from the Onondaga Nation farm, and I'm a member of the Eel Clan. I grew up on the Tuscarora Nation, which is another one of our 6 nations in the Confederacy, and I moved back out here 16 years ago, and I'm very happy and content here. So this is where I was meant to be, I think, and growing our foods is not a sole individual activity. So I'm glad to hear Ethan talk about how it's going to bring people back together, because we're communal people. So this individualized experience of this pandemic has been very, very hard for us Native people, because that's not our way. We do everything together, and we're always, with our immediate families, our biological families, our clan families, our work families, our communities, and then our whole Confederacy. So we're used to traveling all throughout the different territories as well, and we haven't been able to do that as much this year. So I'm thankful that we're able to gather here today. And for me, it's really powerful, because when seeds return to a place, I'm not sure the exact date that the university came into existence, but we can say we know that there probably wasn't three sisters growing at that time, so that would be like our starting point of a date to know that they haven't been here in that long. So it's very important that we have men, women, children, fellow community members, and also the university members as well to help connect with all of those things. And so we have a really good group of people here today to make that happen. So we're going to start closest to the direction. I'm just going to narrate, really. And there's tools that are leaning up against the shed if anybody wants to gather one. So what we want to see here, this is our mound, which to us is almost representative of the woman, the stomach that's going to give birth. So we want to make sure that our dirt that we're going to get ready in this mound here is nice and light and fluffy. So we can go ahead and take the rakes here, and then you're going to just kind of fluff it up. April, you want to give Ethan a little? Yep, you're going to kind of fluff it up because you don't want to pack the seeds in clumpy dirt. You want to kind of, you can kind of pound down a little bit. Yep. Good, Romy. Yep, you're just going to break up those little dirt clumps and then pull it back up. Yeah. Go get the other. All right. Okay. Whenever we plant in our gardens back at the farm, we always start on the direction that the sun rises. So we plant our gardens starting in the east, and then when we finish, it's in the west. So we're actually following the same direction that the sun will travel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can use that one. Go get my other hole. Oh, okay. My one. Okay, that's good. That looks great. Yeah, much better. Okay, and then you're going to hill it back up till it's about a foot high. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We want to break up some of these clumps. Just kind of. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Then you're going to rake this back up. You're going to go from the other direction and rake it back up into the center. And we'll sift off any we may have missed. Okay. This is a very large mound, so we should be able to get quite a few in here. At this time, we're going to plant the, we'll be planting the corn and also planting the squash seeds. So the reason why we're not going to be planting beans at this time, it's a mistake that a lot of people make when they plant a Three Sisters garden, is to put all three things in at once. Beans will take off and they grow the fastest. And so if the beans take off, what happens is they surround the corn plants and they hold it down, which causes it not to be able to get tall enough to actually produce pollen and plants, and you'll have stunted growth on the corn. So the beans are always planted a couple weeks after this. And hopefully the Indigenous students can come back and bring the little starters. You can start, all of our seeds that we do on the farm have been acclimated to this bioregion, and so they're used to the climate, they're used to the elevation, and they're used to the soil content. So we put the seeds directly in the ground. We don't actually do like starter plants and then transplanting method. We put the seeds directly in. Okay, Skeno, take it easy, Rome. That looks great. So for anyone that's that we're virtual live streaming right now, if you're planting in your pails, you still can do a Three Sisters garden. You can, but you would only be able to plant maybe one corn plant because the taproot will go down about 3 feet, so it'll be maybe as big as your bucket. And squash requires a lot of moisture and nutrients, so you would only want to put 1 or 2. And beans you can maybe put 2 or 3. So but then again, don't put them in the pail until after 2 weeks. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to flatten the top of the mound by flipping your rake upside down. Okay, and you're going to just gently, yep, and you can use the, you're going to sift off. Here, let me show you. You're gonna go like this. Yep, you're going to push like this. Yep, okay. And then sift off all of the hard chunks like that. Yep, so now you have, yep, there you go. Okay, Sarah has the seeds. So whenever we plant corn, you have to remember that our, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the Tuscarora white corn, but sometimes we can have plants that are 14 feet and taller. And so the stalks are almost like tree trunks. So you want to plant them at least, this is the distance that we use to measure for planting. So that's what we're going to use here. And we always put one in the center. Sometimes I put sunflowers in the center. Okay, and then you're gonna put your fingers this far apart and put the next one. And then you'll start there. Yeah. So you're gonna do this around the outside of it. Okay? So anybody that would want to plant one, go ahead. Ethan, you should put one in there. So everybody's garden, they may not be exact, but that gives them enough distance where the roots, you're not planting too many. So based on the size of your mound, that'll be your measuring tool, is your hand. When you're pushing your seeds down, you're not going to go any deeper than the first knuckle on your finger. So you push it and you don't pack it. You'll just leave it loosely. I always think of the Hawaiian people, because whenever they used to do that to me, I would think, that's how far apart we plant. We're all on the same page. Okay, so like I said again, remember when you're putting your seeds down, you don't push them too far and you don't pack it in, because they still need sunlight and they still need to have air in order to germinate. Another way that you can plant, that we're not going to do it here, but you also, if you're planting a different type of corn that's flint, or maybe something that has a little bit of a smaller stalk, like some of our colored corns that we have, which are blue, red, yellow, and varieties of that, you can put 2 or 3 inside of there and they'll actually support each other. So the next thing we're going to do is get our squash seeds. So you'll get the best results if you use 2 squash seeds every time you plant. They germinate one another. So you're going to do the same thing on the edges, and you want to make sure you're about 1.5 feet apart. So maybe 5 or 6 on this mound. You're going to put them right on these borders. Just if you need a guide, you don't have to push them down if you don't. And then put two seeds in each hole. And give yourself about 1.5 feet of space between those 2 seeds. Okay. So you're going to go about 1.5 feet, a little bit more, yeah? 2. Put 2 seeds in there, yeah. So these squash plants are going to crawl. So hopefully if anybody's interested to come and look at the garden later in the year, you'll see they'll go far. And this is a full sun garden, so they're really going to thrive here. And the squash that we're planting is what we call the Iroquois crooked neck squash. So for anyone who's familiar with butternut, that was actually it's a form of the original corn, or the original squash to that was the Iroquois crooked neck. And there's a small crook in the neck. Some people call it crooked, some people call it crook neck. And it tastes it's exactly the same taste, but also some of them won't have one. And some of the farmers preferred that, once they had our seeds, and they took that and they created just the butternut. So this is the original of the butternut. So these have never been altered in any way. All of our seeds are heirloom. So that's just an example. When you come back to do your beans, you're just going to scatter them in the middle in between. As beans can be the same thing. So you could do the bean plants the same distance, or you can even put them a little closer together. 2 to 4 inches. That's your choice. Okay, so you in a couple of weeks you'll be back to put the beans in. Okay. Yeah, wow.
So, that was wonderful. Hi, everybody. So our Three Sisters Garden is actually very scientific, and I think our people knew way before scientists knew that the corn would take the hydrogen out of the soil, and the beans would put it back. And I'm always amazed at how intelligent and how much that we really knew. And we've been planting these seeds since time immemorial? Time memorial. So every year we save our best ear of corn, and it's usually the one where the corn goes around the whole ear, and the prettiest one. I think it's kind of like genetics. You want to grow pretty corn, so you plant the pretty corn, even though it's all good. We use everything. So this balanced soil, and I know Professor Jane Mount Pleasant, who is Tuscarora, and she retired from Cornell University, always stressed, do not plow your mounds. You're creating a balanced soil. So you leave your mounds. You may want to build up on them, but do not plow them. Can somebody tell my brother that? He will not listen to me. So, and I think it might have been mentioned that our corn and our beans and our squash is a complete protein. So we had everything that we needed to be healthful and to sustain ourselves. But also, and I think Ange alluded to this, is about community. When people are planting a garden, it brings you together. You talk, you tell stories. And at Onondaga, and I think this has been since the pandemic, more families are planting. And you can drive through the Onondaga Nation and people will have their vegetables at the road for you to take, so they're sharing. And it's also very rewarding to plant and to see something growing and to eat it. And I wanted to share a story. My father passed away in 2002. So he came to me in a dream, and my father always planted. And I'll always remember getting that straw hat, and that was to weed the garden, which back then, shucks, that was just work. And I didn't realize till how important it was to plant and to garden. But he planted every year, and every year I got that straw hat. But, so I went to my brother. I dreamt that he was burning a field, and he was so angry. So I got up, and I went and I immediately went to talk to my mother and my brother. I said, we have to plant. Dad's mad. So since that time, we've continued to his garden, and it'll always be Papa's garden. And it's balance that starts with the soil is actually throughout our whole lives. And I think sort of what Spencer was doing was us giving thanksgiving for everything that the Creator has given us, and that's to keep us balanced, and also to remind us that while we're here, we are supposed to take care of everything in nature and each other. Also, Ethan was a Haudenosaunee Promise Scholar as an undergrad, so I've known Ethan a long time. So I guess what I want to do is make sure that I give gratitude for everybody who has made this possible today, and beginning with Chancellor Kent Siberud, Onondaga Nation title holders, Ethan, Tayo, and your faculty advisor, Professor Ani Bellows. There she is. There's Ani Bellows. The Onondaga Nation Seed Keepers, Ange. The Office of Engagement Programs, Hendricks Chapel, and especially Saisha Bird. And I mentioned those stories, when you're planting, and when we were out here last week building the mounds, I heard about Aisha's dream to be able to offer fresh vegetables to our students. And she said sometimes they come and they said all they would want is an onion. You know, can I get an onion? And she also shared a story about her taking children in her neighborhood fishing, get them off their computers and their video games and get outside. And Ethan would be so proud. He talks about his small garden that he grows outside his apartment complex, right? And how his neighbors have expect his garden and they wait for his vegetables, and they're actually free for them to take. You know, whatever you want, you can take. So that's just a couple stories that I heard. Ones I can share anyway. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the Office of Multicultural Affairs, Native Student Program, David B. Falk College of Sport and Human Dynamics, our student volunteers who share our passion and are actually out here with shovels helping. Pete's Giving Garden, and Pete Sala is the Vice President and Chief Campus Facilities Officer. Pete actually has a very sincere relationship with the Onondaga Nation. He grew up with some of our gentlemen on Onondaga Nation, and he too has stories, which I've heard. And the members of the Syracuse University community that assisted in any way to make today's event complete, and I'm guessing facilities. And did I mention Meg? Where's Meg? I just want to sincerely thank Meg Lowell, and she's in a sustainability office. And it's the most important office on campus, and I think it's just her and one other person. And I've heard those stories. But I also wanted to give gratitude to our alums. We have several alums here. We have Danielle Smith. We have Michelle Paulus. Neil Paulus is here. I saw, Sue Parsons. She was over there with a shovel. Is Neil Patterson? Neil, I want to thank him too. Neil is with ESF, with the Center for Indigenous Peoples and the Environment. That name is way too long. Did I miss any alums? Nope. But anyway, Nyawaha, everybody. This is really great, and I look forward to getting dirty and planting more seeds. So be grateful every day. It's important, and that's one of our messages in our way of life. And be kind to one another. I sound like Ellen, huh? Nyawaha.